I did a crisis management plan for the company Forum Snowboards, which is a company that is motivated in producing a quality snowboard, as well as maintaining the interests of both its sponsors and investors. Now, every company should be prepared for a crisis and know what to do when one occurs. And with that said, Forum Snowboard's crisis management plan starts with a cover page, which includes the Forum logo, the name of the company, how many copies are being distributed, the last revision date, as well as a confidentiality statement at the bottom of the page, underscoring the importance of the documents included, why they're confidential, and if anyone outside of the organization reads those copies, they should dispose of them immediately. And it really just emphasizes the seriousness that needs to be taken within the documents. Next, you'll find an introduction, which is usually written by the CEO of a company, but in Forum's case, the founder, Peter Line, wrote an introduction reiterating the seriousness that its employees should take when reading this crisis management plan, and how they should be taking actions that will value the reputation of the company as well as maintain where it needs to be a successful company. Then you have your acknowledgement form, which can be removed, should be removed, read by everyone who has a crisis management and signed, stating that they acknowledge the information included in the documents, understand it, and will do the best of their ability to take it seriously, and do what they can to maintain the reputation of the company. Then you have your rehearsals date page, which lists every date that the plan was rehearsed, which is important so that every company is aware of how to handle a crisis. And in Forum's case, they had a good record from 2009 to 2013 of the plan being practiced, so they will be well aware of how to handle a crisis when one occurs. Then you have the crisis management team contact sheet, which is a list of all of the members of the company that should be contacted in the event of a crisis, who should be contacted first, and it has all of their department info for better understanding. And for this case of Forum, Peter Line should be contacted first because he is the founder, he is in charge of the company, so any crisis that does occur, he should be the first one to be contacted. That can be found on page 7, and every person that should be contacted is highlighted in orange. Next, you have your crisis risk assessment section, which is basically a list of crises that could occur. For example, structural fire, employee injury, death, list of crises that could occur, the likelihood that they would occur. For example, could be rare, possible, not likely. And then you have the impact, which states how it affected the company, whether that be financially, reputationally, anything of that nature. That's all listed on that page in a very outlined manner. Then you have your incident report sheet, which states the most recent incidents. So for Forum's case, their most recent incident happened last year when a pro rider was riding a Forum board designed to withstand all mountain terrain, heavy weight, tricks, bad weather conditions, anything of that nature, and he was going down the mountain at Kirkwood's Ski Resort in Northern California when he landed after doing a trick, and his board broke in half, causing him to tumble down the mountain. He was airlifted, hospitalized with a coma, and after a few weeks his family took him off life support, therefore putting his death in the hands of Forum Company. Excuse me. They handled the crisis by doing press releases, apologies. They made a full apology. They did a product recall of every board that was sold to customers, pulled it out of the stores, reimbursed everybody, and they also paid for the family to funeral expenses, paid for the family's flights to get to the funeral, paid for any family loss. They basically covered everything financially. They did apologies on Facebook and Twitter, and they really just put themselves out there, but the response was still really negative. A lot of people posted on Facebook and Twitter negative comments about Forum. They were not impressed. Investors and sponsors began pulling out of the company because they doubted the financial credibility of Forum, and a lot of fans pulled out because they did not trust Forum's quality of board or product anymore. And so it was a very negative outcome, even though Forum did the best that they could to handle the crisis. After your incident report sheet, you have your proprietary information sheet, which is a guideline of the confidentiality statements that occur between Forum and its investors. For example, if a board is being created, no one outside the company should know that that is being created until it's been put on sale in stores. Or for another example, if a family member is injured during work, no one can be notified unless the family has been notified first. So for Jason Bell's case, no one was notified outside of Forum until his family was. So the public was unaware of it until his family was notified. I mean, of course, yes, there was going to be those people there that heard about it and posted about it, but generally they try to keep that information to themselves. Then you have your communication strategy worksheet, which kind of just monitors what needs to be recorded for documentation. So any conversations that occur outside the company with reporters, with outside sources, everything like that needs to be recorded for future documentation so that a company knows how to better handle that, and they have everything said in one basic area so they can go back and look at it and say, oh, we said this wrong, this is what we should have said. It's a very important part of the CMP and should really be followed. Then you have your secondary contact sheet, which is anybody that is not on the first list of contacts that should be contacted in the event of a crisis. It lists when they were contacted, when they should be contacted, and again, who should be contacted first, which again would be Peter Line. Then you have your stakeholder contact worksheet, which is any outside sources that need to be contacted, how or when, if they call, they should be redirected to who in the department. So if someone calls regarding a family injury, that call can be redirected to someone in the department that can handle that. Any financial questions could be redirected to the financial department, and any press releases or press concerns could be handled and directed to the public relations section and department of the company. Then you have your business continuity plan, which states when a company can return to work at a normal pace after a crisis. So if a structural fire occurs, the business continuity plan might say that a company can resume work within 2 to 3 weeks. That would be the basic standard allotted time for that. Every crisis is different, so it really depends on the company and the crisis management plan and how that all is written out. Then you have your crisis control center description, which is found on page 14 of the crisis management plan, and that lists how and when a company should leave and meet at the crisis control center, which is a meeting spot for everyone in the company to gather after a crisis to ensure that everyone is safe. So that is found on page 14, like I said, and it includes a clear description of where the company should meet after a crisis. Finally, you have your evaluation form, which is located on page 15, and it's basically a list of yes and no questions that a company can ask themselves after a crisis, just to follow up and see how they did as a company, how they responded, what they could do better next time. Just basic questions like that, just so that they know really how well they did as a company overall, how they handled the stress, and really just try to shape their all-around appeal and a reputation for future crises. And for my crisis management plan, I did choose to do a different type of font. I did all caps in a lot of areas because I did like the way it looked. Forum is a little different brand, and I thought that the all caps font, kind of just emphasized the difference that Forum has. It is a different snowboard company, and the font's a little different. I felt like it looked a lot really cool and collected, and I wanted to emphasize that throughout the entire crisis management plan. I did use non-caps in some areas, but mostly I tried to maintain that whole capitalization feel. I thought it looked very nice, and I feel that it all flowed really well together. And that is it.